All right, let's dive into a story that I think a lot of us can relate to. It's a journey to answer a really tough question. Why do I feel so completely and utterly overwhelmed all the time? This is that story.
And this right here, this is the goal. It's this deep desire for peace, for a day that doesn't feel like a constant, chaotic storm. And honestly, that feeling is where our entire explainer really begins.
So let's get real for a second. What does this tornado actually feel like? What's the day-to-day reality of it? Well, it's a constant battle. It's where even simple tasks feel like climbing a mountain. Trying to stay organized, trying to prioritize what to do next, it feels impossible, almost like you're trying to build something in the middle of a hurricane. And that constant struggle, it just leads to being completely burnt out and anxious before the workday even starts. And here's what's so important to get. While the intense pressure from a demanding job made things worse, these feelings weren't new. This wasn't just a recent thing. The underlying pattern of feeling disorganized and struggling to get things done, that's been there for a very, very long time. The storm's been brewing for years.
So, realizing that this was something deeper, something more fundamental, kicked off a search for an answer. It became a mission to finally unravel the why behind this lifelong struggle.
And look, this journey wasn't a short one. We're talking years of therapy, starting way back. There were diagnoses along the way, things like depression, anxiety, PTSD. And yeah, medication helped a bit, but it always felt like these diagnoses were just pieces of a much bigger puzzle, not the whole picture.
You gotta picture it like this. The mental and emotional battery was already running on red. All the energy that a person needs just to get through the day was already being drained by the constant background hum of anxiety, the weight of depression, and just the lingering effects of stress from the past. But then, after all that searching, a really comprehensive evaluation finally found it, the central piece of the puzzle, the one thing that made all the other pieces suddenly click into place. The answer was ADHD, but probably not the kind you're picturing, specifically the predominantly inattentive type. This is the kind that gets missed all the time, because it's not about being hyperactive and bouncing off the walls. No, it's an internal struggle. It's about this immense difficulty with focus, with organization, with just seeing a task through to the end. And this quote from the diagnostic report, wow, it just hits the nail on the head. It was never ever about a lack of intelligence or a lack of mental energy. In fact, the capacity was exceptional. But all of that amazing energy was just getting burned up by the sheer effort it took to stay focused. It's like having a super powerful engine that's just spinning its wheels in the mud. A ton of power, but it's not going anywhere. So, getting this ADHD diagnosis wasn't just about sticking another label on things, not at all. It was like finally finding the instruction manual. It explained the hidden logic behind the struggle, showing how all the different symptoms were actually feeding each other in a vicious cycle. Okay, so check this out. Here's how that cycle works. First, the inattentive ADHD causes disorganization, which creates constant stress. Then that stress pours gasoline on the fire of the anxiety and depression that are already there. Next, those conditions drain your mental and emotional battery. And finally, when you've got an empty tank, trying to manage the original ADHD symptoms feels, well, impossible. And then the whole cycle starts right back up again. I mean, the clinical summary puts it perfectly, even if the words are a little fancy. The conditions potentiate and exacerbate each other. All that really means is they weren't just sitting there side by side. They were actively making each other worse. It created this constant state of just being on the brink of a total overload. So that all sounds pretty bleak, right? But here's the good news. Once you understand this cycle, you can actually start to break it. With this new, clearer diagnosis, a real path toward peace finally starts to take shape. So, what does that path look like? The whole strategy really rests on two foundational pillars. First up is medication management, getting the brain chemistry right to address not just the depression and anxiety, but now the ADHD too. And second, continuing with therapy to keep processing trauma and to build real, practical coping skills. And then there's the day-to-day stuff, right? The actual toolkit. This means building structure on the outside to support what's happening on the inside. We're talking breaking tasks down, scheduling real breaks to recharge, and really importantly, seeking out community, connecting with people who actually get it. And that's the whole point, isn't it? The goal stops being about just surviving the tornado. It shifts to actually building a life that has structure, predictability, and peace. It's like you stop running from the storm
and instead you learn how to build a shelter and forecast the weather. And that leaves us with one final, really powerful question to think about. For anyone out there who feels like they're just not trying hard enough, what if the answer isn't more effort? What if the real key to finally feeling together is, after all this time, just having the right map?